Ladies and gentlemen, sports fans alike, welcome to another edition of Bill Swerski Sports Talk Chicago, one of the couple, two, three best podcasts around. So sit back, grab yourself a cold one and a Polish sausage, park your keister in the French room, and listen to Bill Swerski Sports Talk Chicago.
In Chicago, you know that all sports rock. The Bears, Hawks, Bulls, Cubs, and Sox. Pick your favorite, you can choose, as long as the Packers lose. For everything you need to know, it's Bill Swerski Sports Talk Chicago. Bill Swerski Sports Talk Chicago.
Hey everybody, welcome to another edition of Bill Swerski Sports Talk Chicago. This is your hosts, Alex and Sean. On this episode, we're going to be talking about the absolutely ridiculous loss today for the Chicago Bears. We're going to be talking about the Blackhawks, we're going to be talking the Bulls, and some other things here and there. But first, I'd like to thank our sponsor, the Rockford IceHawks. If you're not familiar with the Rockford IceHawks, they're the AHL minor league affiliate of the Chicago Blackhawks. What does that mean for you? You get to see the stars of tomorrow today at family-friendly, affordable prices. This season is here. It's upon us. So make sure you head on over to icehawks.com, get yourself a hat, shirt, jersey, tickets, and more. Tell them Swerski Sports sent you. Alex, besides the obvious, how are you doing?
Oh, I'm fine. I'm just fine and dandy. You know, I'm trying to let myself kind of steer away emotionally from a certain football team. And, it's kind of funny because Thanksgiving week is one of my all-time favorite weeks of the year. It really is. And I am going to do my best to not let this football team ruin that. And it really doesn't help that we have to endure this yet again on Thanksgiving. We only get a few days rest from this. And I think I speak for pretty much everybody who are fans of football, including Bears and Lions fans, that I have little to basically no interest in this coming Thanksgiving showdown in Detroit, especially after what we saw today.
Yeah, I want to start off with a few days before the bye week, I sat down and I was like, I'm going to channel my frustrations. Now I'm going to write a letter to George McCaskey.
Oh, no.
So I did. And I mailed it to him. I literally got a stamp and an envelope and wrote Chicago Bears, attention, George McCaskey, 1920 Hallis Way, Lake Forest, Illinois. And I mailed it. Would you like me to read
the letter? Did you write the letter with cutting out like different magazine like fonts and like gluing it together?
No, I didn't. I actually typed it up so he could read it because my handwriting has gotten atrocious over the years. But
same here.
Yeah, the more I type, the less I write. My handwriting gets bad.
The only time I actually write anything is when I'm like signing my name. That's really it. Everything else is digital now.
Would you like for me to read you the letter that I wrote to George McCaskey?
Please do. I think myself and all our listeners would love to hear it.
Dear George, I write this letter as a diehard Chicago Bears fan for nearly 40 years and weekly Bears podcaster for about the last 7 years. My finger is firmly on the pulse of the fans, and this letter serves as a list of grievances with the organization. First, I hope you have taken the opportunity to rewatch the end-of-year press conference you jointly held with Ted Phillips last year. The vast majority of Bears fans and beat writers and Chicago media in general went into that meeting fully expecting the announcement of the firing of Matt Nagy as head coach and Ryan Pace as general manager. However, what happened was you doubling down in your support of that pair. While I fully understand that you and Ted are tasked with running this franchise, the air of tone deafness in your press conference was staggering. Hopefully this offseason you make the correct choice in regard to the coaching and front office structure. I acknowledge that Ryan Pace has had some success with mid to late round picks, i.e. Adrian Amos, Eddie Jackson, David Montgomery, Nick Kwiatkowski, etc. His overall draft success, especially with early round picks, has been bad. Kevin White, Leonard Floyd, Mitchell Trubisky, Adam Shaheen. In addition, Pace's constant trading up has left the well of draft picks dry. Ryan has also been silent on the state of the Bears, are so silent on the state of the Bears that the most vocal voices have been frustrated former players and disgruntled current players. I'm not sure you follow former players on Twitter, but I think you may want to sit down before reading comments from the likes of Lance Briggs and Olin Kreutz. Also, Ryan is stuck so hard behind Matt Nagy without addressing the very clear failures of this coaching staff. But the most damning argument is the salary cap management. The salary cap and dead money situation with the Chicago Bears is a borderline nightmare. This front office keeps kicking the financial burden down the road, and I'm very concerned we're going to waste the rookie years of Justin Fields, the rookie deal years of Justin Fields paying for Ryan Pace's mistakes. Matt Nagy, on the other hand, has been a disaster. This man was brought in labeled as an offensive genius and a quarterback whisperer. In his time, he has run Mitchell Trubisky into the ground, grounded a former Super Bowl MVP in Nick Foles, railroaded Andy Dalton, and is attempting to get Justin Fields murdered. His play calling is atrocious and leads to so much pre-snap confusion that we have more motion penalties, delay of game penalties, and blown up plays than I have seen in my entire life. When he was bullied into giving up play calling and the team saw some modicum of success under Bill Lazor, he was quick to rush to the podium to tell everyone how it was his offense. We have not successfully developed one offensive player under Matt Nagy. In fact, our best offensive lineman is a 39-year-old that was a free agent on a fishing trip all through training camp. I could list you offensive numbers post 2018 for you and how the Bears are consistently at the bottom of the league. Despite our wide receiver core being one of the fastest in the NFL, the routes they are given to run are so predictable that they can't get open. We are constantly being dragged by national media, i.e. Ryan Clark and Dan Orlovsky, especially dragging the coaching of Matt Nagy. Matt Nagy's face has literally become a meme for incompetence, which is embarrassing as a fan. On top of the on-field play, we have organization now embroiled in a very public battle with the city of Chicago and a scandal where the Bears organization helped cover up an assault of a pregnant woman by a current Bears player. Your grandfather was the architect of the Chicago Bears as a historic team in the NFL. Can you look at the legacy of this franchise under your watch and feel you have continued his success? The Chicago Bears have only made the playoffs 6 times since Mike Ditka was fired in 1992, almost 30 years. And the team is 3-6 in those playoff appearances. In this same time period, the Bears have only won 10 or more games in a season 6 times. Statistically, the Bears have only been in the top half of NFL offenses 6 times since 1992. In that time, they have had 16 different quarterbacks lead the team in passing for the year. That is not how you define success in any way, shape, or form. To give you context to those numbers, in the same period, the Green Bay Packers have had 3 quarterbacks. One was due to an injury, have won 2 Super Bowls, and won the division 15 times. The New England Patriots have had 5 quarterbacks, 1 due to injury, won 6 Super Bowls, and won the division 19 times. What this team needs is to move Ted Phillips away from any decisions related to the football operations. It is clear that ownership and Ted do not have the X's and O's acumen needed to guide a winning organization. So what is needed is a president of football operations that oversees the long-term on-field goals of the franchise, someone like an Ozzie Newsome, and acts as a check on the GM. Do not rely on rival organizations to help you. Cough, Bidwell family, cough. This is vital for long-term success of this franchise and stop being the mediocrity of the Midway. One final and somewhat self-serving note I want to make. What the Chicago Bears deem as non-traditional media, which is bloggers and podcasters, are actually important. We are the ones that are the diehard fans. We are the ones that talk to other fans on a regular basis. Hub Arkush doesn't talk to fans. Brad Biggs doesn't talk to fans. ESPN doesn't talk to fans. But during Ryan Pace's tenure as general manager, the Chicago Bears organization has pushed away non-traditional media. The NFL recognizes us as media and allows us to apply to cover the draft and the Super Bowl and other functions. However, the Chicago Bears organization no longer allows us to attend training camp or have access to players and coaches. Honestly, it makes me feel like the team I love so much views me as an antagonist rather than an asset. My ultimate goal is to have the Chicago Bears franchise become the benchmark for NFL organizations and a perennial Super Bowl contender. I'm sick of having to settle for just being better than the Lions. I'm frustrated seeing so many Green Bay Packers jerseys around the city of Chicago. I want Bears games to be something the whole community gathers for and not a punishment that diehards inflict upon themselves. I would be happy to further discuss any comments I have made with you and be a conduit between the average fan, not the Skybox fans, and yourself. I would even invite you to be on the podcast to have real talk, to better learn your perspective, whatever it takes to make the Bears great again.
Wow. That's, I got to tell you, man, I give you a lot of props for that. Listen, when I listen to you talk, you're reflecting every thought that has gone through my head as a Bears fan. And you're much older than me. I mean, you've seen more of this than I have. My memories, honestly, of the Bears in detail go back to the Lovie Smith days, the beginning of the Lovie Smith days when he came in, and maybe a little bit of the Dick Duran. But, you were there in the 90s when, once that got off to a decent start and then things tailed off, and you saw the tailing off of Mike Ditka, obviously, and just a lot of the bad in the late 90s and getting destroyed by Brett Favre. So, you've seen even more of this. And I mean, you hit on every crucial point here. And when you hit on every crucial point, you did it in what I would consider a much more professional manner than I think other people might be inclined to do. Some people might be inclined to, throw insults or, use explicit language. And there was none of that. I mean, you kept it professional, blunt, and honest without getting too personal. So I got to tell you, that's a pretty well thought out set of words right there. And though I can picture you putting that in the envelope, driving to the mailbox and just slamming that thing in the mailbox and slamming that door shut. But no, I mean, honestly, great work on that. I think what I loved most about that letter was just the perspective you put everything in. I mean, I've talked about it many times on the show with other people. They have won 3 playoff games in the past 20 years. 3. 2 in 2006 and 1 in 2010. Since 2000. That's it. That is it. And since 2005, they have what? 4 division titles? That's 15, 16 years worth of seasons right there. You're going to be a charter franchise. You sure want to be better than that. I mean, it's just, this is the place where you could catch the McCaskies and, they claim they care, they want to say that, they're big fans. Well, if that is indeed true, then you got to remind them, hey, if you're a fan, then why do you want to keep watching this? You were obviously watching the game today, right?
Yep, I was.
And you saw that the television camera panned to Virginia McCaskey in her box when Andy Dalton threw that touchdown pass.
Yep.
And that is a reminder that no matter what, no matter how much they care or not, that they are watching every minute of this team. I don't think Virginia McCaskey's missed a Bears game in her life. I really don't.
Probably not, which makes it even more frustrating.
Yeah.
Because she clearly cares, but I'm going to backtrack quickly. As I saw a tweet and I wanted to respond, but you know how Twitter, if you don't respond immediately, you'll never find that tweet again.
Right.
Somebody put like something along the lines of, if you're a Bears fan and you're still blaming the McCaskey family for the Bears struggles, you don't know anything about football. And I was frustrated by that because we see Virginia McCaskey there. She clearly cares. She doesn't know what to do. They don't know what to do. They inherited this team that they love dearly, but they don't know what to do. It's like somebody giving you a potted plant and you don't know how to care for it and it's dying and you're like, I feel bad, but I don't know what to do. And it's the same thing. This franchise is dying and they don't know what to do. They don't know anything about football other than just being fans. They don't know anything. And every time they do something, it draws the attention on them. So when they fire a GM and a head coach, eyes go on them. And they don't want that because they don't make good decisions. But when they just let things go, everybody gets mad at the head coach and the general manager, and it takes the heat off of them almost in the public eye. That's where we're at. They're clearly part of the issue. There's a reason that certain franchises are continuously good because they make good choices and they make good decisions, and they've created a winning framework for their organization. And the Bears haven't done that.
And when you hire the right people, you don't have to change coaches every 2, 3, 4 years.
Right. And they just haven't done that. And you'd mentioned that, I've been around for for a long time. Like, I was born during the Jack Pardee era, but that was pre me knowing anything. And then same thing with Neil Armstrong. When I started watching, Mike Ditka was the head coach. And I've watched through the Ditka era, through the Wanstead era, through the Giron era, through the Lovey era, through the Trestman era, through the Fox era. Now I watched the dying breaths of the Matt Nagy era today.
How many times have we said over the past 2 seasons, going back to the beginning of 2020, how many times have we said this should be a direction-changing loss? We said it twice during those Packers blowouts last year. This game, I thought, was more like the Lions loss last year, where they absolutely blew it in the final minutes. This is kind of where I compare this game to, because it wasn't, a massive blowout embarrassment to your biggest rival, but, it was a game that, let's be real. This was a terrible football game. Not just from the Bears' perspective. It was terrible from the Bears' perspective, obviously, but as a whole, that was an awful snooze fest of a football game. But the reality is that Andy Dalton hooked up with Marquise Goodwin on a huge play where you were down to your last down. You had just gotten penalized. The 4th down marker was even further away, and you connected with under 2 minutes to go with what looked like was going to be a game-winning go-ahead touchdown when you had spent most of the game trailing. And then you let an undrafted quarterback march down the field with ease, and you lost at home after a bye week. That right there, those are games that cause heads to roll. And keep this in mind too. Last year, the Bears lost 6 in a row. Matt Nagy, Ryan Pace, GM, coach. That same GM and coach is on a 5+ game losing streak now. How many times in the NFL do you see coaches survive multiple losing streaks like that?
Not many.
Exactly.
Unless it's to start your tenure with the team because they know, oh, hey, we fired our last coach because we were so bad and it's going to take some time. But these occurred in year 3 and year 4 of the Matt Nagy era. This is not him taking on a new team that is at the bottom of the barrel trying to get better.
Look at Mike McCarthy and the Packers. Remember how many years of success he had? And then 2018, like the first time ever, he had a bad season with Aaron Rodgers. He lost his job. It's when you're a veteran coach and you got to, he's obviously not a longtime veteran, but you got to consider Matt Nagy a veteran by now. He's coached, like you said, year 3, year 4. He's not a rookie or a sophomore by any means. Football can be very unforgiving. When you are in a position where you are built to win, and even though you don't think the Bears are a winning team per se, but they were built to try to win. They weren't rebuilding. They didn't shed a bunch of guys to rebuild. That was more like when John Fox came in, is when they were going through a transition period. All through Matt Nagy, they were supposed to be in contention. So when you're in that position, regardless of how good you actually are or not, and you have multiple losing streaks of 5+ games in back-to-back seasons, I mean, that in most cases is not going to keep you around very long.
Yes. I mean, it's honestly, both Matt Nagy and Ryan Pace should have been fired after last offseason. Period. And honestly, if Ryan Pace would have been desperate to keep his job, he would have gone to Ted Phillips and George McCaskey and said, "Hey, we're going to move on from Ryan or Matt Nagy and find a new head coach," and bought himself time between drafting Justin Fields and getting a new head coach. He probably bought himself a couple of years. But he didn't do that. He married himself to Matt Nagy, and now they've established themselves as a duo. They have to get fired as a duo.
Yeah, I think at this point it's like you said, it's a duo. It's both go, both stay. And I mean, look.
And you said Matt Nagy is not a new coach. He is a veteran. If you look at the current longest tenures of NFL head coaches, Matt Nagy's plumb dead in the middle. He's number 16.
Yeah. Yeah, no, that's true. That is true. And Matt Nagy, even when he came in 2018, you know, the Bears were setting themselves up to try to contend. You know, they traded for Khalil Mack. They were going for contention right off the bat. So Matt Nagy was never in a position with the Chicago Bears to be seeking the transition phase, so to speak. Even though you have a new quarterback and you're trying to develop him, you know, you came into this season, regardless if it was going to be Justin Fields off the bat or it was going to be Andy Dalton, you came into this season with what was still a defense with mostly in-prime guys. You came in with Khalil Mack, Akeem Hicks, Eddie Jackson, Roquan Smith, Danny Trevathan. You had David Montgomery, who had on the offensive side, you had veterans in David Montgomery, who had several years of experience. You had Allen Robinson. So, you know, you had a team with veteran assets on it that were still trying to stay in contention. And, you know, you can't look at this situation and say, well, you know, Justin Fields is a rookie quarterback and they're trying to figure things out. It's like, well, look, you're 3-7. And I get it that the schedule is tough, but you've had winnable games, especially this one. You got gifted. The ultimate gift. Yes.
You were gifted is the biggest weapon that the Ravens have that you feared that was going to beat you was Lamar Jackson. Mm-hmm. And he was out today. You faced an undrafted rookie making his first NFL start.
Yeah, at home after a bye week.
Yep. And you shit the bed. Right off the bat.
Matt Nagy is 0-4 now after the bye week.
Yep. So just quickly, Matt Nagy is 3-7 on the year. He's 0-4 coming out of the byes. 1-6 versus the Green Bay Packers. Since 2019, since game 1 of 2019, so taking out his first year, his team is averaging 19.4 points per game. And Justin Fields has been sacked 32 times this year. 32 times. And he wasn't even the starter every game.
No, he wasn't. I have another question statistically about the Bears. How many 3-and-outs do they have per game compared to other teams? That's what I would love to know.
I don't know. I'm sure that's a stat somebody has.
I'm sure it is too. But I'm not just talking about this year. I'm just talking about the past 3 years overall. It's got to be up there.
But here's the thing is not just me, not just former players, not just the beat writers. It's everybody is saying, why isn't Matt Nagy putting Justin Fields in a position to succeed? It's almost like he's trying to ruin Justin Fields. Case in point is he never puts Justin Fields in the opportunity to make short throws to start the game, to get in a rhythm, to be successful and move the ball. The first screen pass that Matt Nagy called today wasn't until 8 minutes and 12 seconds left in the third quarter, which was after Justin Fields was already out of the game and Andy Dalton was in.
You had play action and screens right off the bat with Andy Dalton, and guess what? They worked.
Is you only targeted your running back on one pass, and tight ends only 5 targets. Why is that? I honestly, he is a detriment to this team. And the fact right before we came on, I was logging on to the internet going, hey, was Matt Nagy fired? Because he should not be the head coach when the Bears take the field on Thursday against the Lions. He should not be the coach.
Don't hold your breath.
I'm not. I'm just saying though that's there's no reason that Matt Nagy should be the head coach.
You know what really got me today? You were talking about some of the play calling.
Was it right after your starting quarterback made a really nice play and immediately you go in and put your running back as quarterback in a wildcat?
Well, that was one thing. That was one thing. Remember the first drive of the game? Justin Fields had a really nice start to Darnell Mooney down the sideline. Great throw, right? Really love to see it. You get in deep in their territory. It's 3rd and 5, and you pitch it to your running back, and it's a loss of yards. What the hell? Why do they not throw in the end zone more with Justin Fields?
It's frustrating is Matt Nagy has no concept of how to balance run pass. He just doesn't know how to do it. He can't do it. And I'm saying Matt Nagy is because you cannot tell me after today that it's not Matt Nagy calling plays behind the scenes. You can't, because I'd suspected it based on the way play calling has shifted. And since he came back from COVID, and it was confirmed today when he freaked out when his headset stopped working because he's radioing in the plays. You can't tell me he's not.
Yeah. How about that sequence, huh? He can't radio in the plays. It looks like they're going to punt. Then they come out and do a wildcat formation. They don't come close to converting and they get penalized on it. And you burned a timeout on that.
Yep. And that's not even the worst timeout. You call the timeout because you didn't know if you were kicking the extra point or going for a 2-point conversion when it didn't matter anyway, because they would have to score a touchdown. And no matter what, they were going to be ahead with the extra point, and they have the best kicker in football. So like, what was the point? Why did you burn a timeout for that?
I don't know.
And 4th and 1, and you put the wildcat formation in.
What the hell, man?
Like he is an incompetent boob.
What? All you needed was 1 yard. Look at the percent. Like, I can guarantee you the percentages of converting 4th and 1 this year with just either a QB sneak or running up the middle are pretty good.
Yeah,
all you needed to do was just have him right behind either QB sneak or you give it to Montgomery, not out of a shotgun, not out in the back, not in a wildcat. Just get a yard. That's all you need to do is get a yard.
It's infuriating. It's infuriating, the ineptitude of this offense. It's funny because he talks about, my mentor is Andy Reid. I try to build this offense like him, and it's important that we go out and get a tight end. So they go overpay for a Jimmy Graham, and they draft Cole Kmet. And what do? They don't throw it to them. And Andy Reid has like 473 different screen passes that he runs, and Matt Nagy runs 0.
Yeah, I'm waiting for these Andy Reid type plays. I've been waiting for the past 4 years.
Andy Reid has won Super Bowls. But I'll bet you I could find one game, just one random game of the Chiefs, and they throw more screen passes in that one game than and Matt Nagy calls an entire season.
Yeah, probably. Probably. Pick a random game, any game.
And today Darnell Mooney had a big game is on paper 121 yards and a touchdown, but that was on 5 catches. He was targeted 16 times. Darnell Mooney was not good today. Like, he had on paper, he was good, but if you watched, there was a lot of times he just couldn't get open. There was dropped passes. There was, Darnell Mooney was not good today. We're seeing what life is like back again without having a number 1 wide receiver.
Mm-hmm.
And it's frustrating. And I get Allen Robinson is a pain in the ass, and Allen Robinson is not producing like somebody that's the way he's getting paid. But you need a number 1 wide receiver. And I would say, oh, hey, there's probably going to be a really good one where you're drafting, but you don't have a first round pick again.
Yeah. It's funny when I see people say, oh, look, they're playing for draft pick. And I'm like, that draft pick goes to the Giants.
And part of me wants to be petty and be like, let's win as many games as we can so the Giants have a worse draft pick. But then I'm like, you know what? If it's a good draft pick, then our second rounder will be better and our third rounder will be better, etc. But still, missing that first round draft pick is going to suck for this rebuilding process.
Yeah.
But this game today was just so frustrating because you had difficulty stopping a first undrafted rookie quarterback who's playing in his first NFL game. Like, that's not how things are supposed to go. And not only that, is he marched down the field and got a touchdown to win the game.
Yeah, that's what infuriated me about the defense, is how you let him do that so easily. And I feel for Roquan Smith and Robert Quinn, they played their hearts out today. They were all over the place. They deserve all the props. But man, if I have to see Kindle Vildor blow coverage one more time.
It's funny because Tony Romo was talking. Like, Tony Romo's got to be annoyed that he got stuck with this game.
Yeah, sorry, Tony.
But he talked about how the Bears had a lot of good young players. And I'm sure Ryan Pace is going to try to sell that as the reason he should stay. And it's the coaching staff's fault that they're not utilizing these players. But he came into a make or break year for himself as the general manager with Kindle Vildor as the number 2 cornerback.
Yeah, look, I know as hell I can't play cornerback in the NFL, but you need some people who can. And like me, I don't think Kindle Vildor can do that. He's gotten picked apart so many times. And what's frustrating about him is there are times when he's on the receiver quite well, but he never can make a play on the ball. So even though he's on him and the coverage is good, they still make the catch because he can never make a play on the ball. That or he just gets burned. It's so frustrating. you feel like if he could just make a play on some of those balls, he'd at least be a little bit better, but he doesn't make the play on the ball. I don't get it.
Yeah, he's not good. Duke Shelley's not good. I just don't understand at this point why we know we're not making the playoffs. We know that Matt Nagy is not going to be the head coach next season. Why aren't we seeing what we have in the other draft picks that we have? Like Thomas Graham. Let's see what we have with Thomas Graham. If he still like needs some work or whatever, who cares? Like we need to know if he can play or not. Like, you know, we can take the learning mistakes, but we've seen enough of Kendall Vildor, Daz Newsome. You know, we've seen enough of these other wide receivers. I want to see what Daz Newsome has.
Sure.
You know, once he's ready, like I appreciate everything Jason Peters has done, but I want to see Tevin Jenkins out there because I want to see what he can do. I've seen enough of Larry Borum to know that I like where he's going. And, you know, sure, he's got some work to do, but he's been pretty darn good. But I want to see what Tevin Jenkins can do on the other side. And, you know, it's time. Like the Bears should take this opportunity to get a jump start on everything. Evaluate everybody. Everybody, you're not playing to win, you're playing to evaluate. You should fire your head coach because there's absolutely nothing that Chris Tabor or that Matt Nagy can do that Chris Tabor can't do for the next 7 weeks.
Well, and here's the thing too, is if the rumors are true that, because I heard this, I don't know how true they are, but that there's already being consideration within Hallis Hall that they might be looking into some options for next year at head coach. Why would you want to keep around a lame duck? How does that keep your team in focus if your head coach is basically like, yeah, I'm done after this year? I mean, this is where the Bears got to stop with their BS and not, you know, refusing to make changes mid-season. Like, if you don't make a change mid-season, look, getting rid of Nagy is not going to make you a playoff team. We all know that. But why would you want a lame duck head coach if you're indeed going to be looking for options next year? If you give Chris Tabor the job, he knows he's an interim coach. He darn well knows that.
Yeah, he knows he won't even be here next year. But you know what? He's auditioning.
Right. So I don't get it, man. I really don't. There's got to be a point, and I think there's something else to be said about this too. Sometimes you just need to show that you can put your foot down, because I can't help but wonder if just the way the McCaskies run this organization, that they feel like they can just keep failing or just barely riding the line, being right there in the realm of mediocrity, and feel okay because they're not going to make any changes mid-season. I feel like the McCaskies have an opportunity to be like, you know what? This isn't working. We're not going to tolerate this anymore. We need to make a change right now for the betterment of the future. Not on Black Monday, but right now.
Yeah, I agree with you. Matt Nagy has no business being this head coach. And I understand if maybe you're like, all right, we're going to wait to fire Ryan Pace because that's a long time to go without a GM. I can sort of ride with that.
Yeah, me too. You need somebody.
But I mean, honestly, you shouldn't. You should be able to ride the rest of the season without it. But if you're not going to fire him, you have to fire Matt Nagy. And even if the McCaskey family is not going to do it, if you're Ryan Pace, don't you have to do it as a last-ditch effort to save your job?
I mean, you would think, right? You would think that they would want to go out and be like, hey, especially if you're Ryan Pace. I mean, I'm just saying, like to your point, beyond just the McCaskies, if he wants to go out and say, hey, look, I know this isn't working. I'm going to make this change. Give me permission to do this. I couldn't help but wonder if that would speak any volumes to them. I don't know. But if you're Ryan Pace, you got to be looking at this and saying, I know I've made my mistakes, but the way this is getting coached, those are winnable games. My job looks much more in jeopardy that we lost those games that we could have won.
Absolutely.
And this is one of the big reasons.
Absolutely. I mean, if I'm Ryan Pace, I'm separating myself as much as possible from Matt Nagy. Absolutely. But I mean, I think he's a dumb guy, so maybe he's not smart enough to think about that.
Sean, there's so much I wonder about what happens at Hallis Hall. How much influence does George and Ted have on this organization? Has there been conversations from Ryan Pace saying, you know what, maybe we should do something, and Ted Phillips and George McCaskey say, no, that's not how we do things? I don't know. I'm just throwing out ideas, because here's the thing. Ryan Pace, in terms of drafting, has been a very mixed bag. In terms of free agents, has been a pretty mixed bag, a lot more bad than good. And the handling of the cap has not been great. I don't want to think he's that dumb. I think he realizes exactly what's at stake here. I just can't help but wonder if there are things that Ryan Pace wants to do what other people want him to do, but the McCaskies and Ted Phillips are pushing back. And maybe not. I don't know. I
don't think so. I don't think so. I don't think so. I think Ryan Pace has sole football operations under his thumb, and he's just bad at his job. Like, so there's things.
You don't think George McCaskey reinforces, though, we don't fire coaches mid-season policy?
I don't think so.
I just can't help but wonder. I just can't help it.
I mean, it's a possibility, but I mean, if George and Ted Phillips are true to their word, where they say that they said publicly that they don't interfere with Ryan Pace with football operations, if that's the case, then this is all on Ryan Pace. And if I'm Ryan Pace and my bosses are telling me, don't fire this guy that I want to fire to try to save my job, then guess what? Then I'm fully thinking that I'm fired too, and I'm publicly making sure everybody knows that I'm being bullied into not firing this guy that I want to fire.
Yeah, I mean, I know they said they don't interfere with football operations, and we've talked about this on this show before. It's just, how many times have personnel said one thing publicly and the other thing is actually the truth? And, maybe my speculations are completely wrong. They probably are. Again, I'm just thinking out loud. And the reason why I feel like we have the right to think out loud is the Bears are the least transparent team in the city. That's a fact.
True. They're so not transparent, and they've gotten worse under Ryan Pace. Ryan Pace and Matt Nagy are so secretive, like there's some sort of brain trust, and they've got all this great stuff brewing. Nobody cares because they're both incompetent dum-dums, and nobody cares what they have to say because it's blathering dumbness, and they don't know what they're doing. Nobody needs to know what they're thinking or doing because they're just going to dominate them anyway because one has assembled a bad team and one is a bad coach. Like what do they need to know what's going on in their little circles? Like just be honest. And the thing is they catch that cue from George McCaskey. George McCaskey, they kept asking him, did you extend Ryan Pace? And just answer the question. They don't answer questions either.
If you want a good idea of how George McCaskey tries to not reveal things, go look up a clip from Shrek the Third. It's where Pinocchio is confronted by Prince Charming, and Pinocchio knows that if he lies, his nose is going to grow. So when he's interrogating him, he's like, on the contrary, I may not somewhat, not sure exactly where he may or may not be. That kind of sums it up.
Yeah, it's just infuriating.
But, I want to stay on that subject for just a minute and make a quick point. Remember all those years when Theo Epstein was in charge of the Cubs?
Mm-hmm.
Do you remember how open he was to the media at all times and how every process he did, he explained it? If you want to look at the perfect example, the best example for a sports executive to be available to the media and honest with the media, I think Theo Epstein was one of the best, if not the best around.
And listen, I fully understand that the competitive nature of what they're doing is, and you can't just be like, oh, hey, we're, doing this or that.
Well, no, of course not. But because this is ridiculous.
Yeah, I forgot what it was. One of the beat writers was asking Matt Nagy a question, and he's like, I can't answer that. It's competitive advantage. And he's like, how is that competitive advantage? And Matt Nagy just wouldn't answer the question. It's like this whole team, they don't answer anything. And there's some things you're like, okay, how, like if somebody asks you what your game plan is for the upcoming week. All right.
Right.
That's not a question you can answer. Or, what's going to be your strategy for free agency? Like, oh, hey, we're going after this big name wide receiver. Like, of course you're not going to say that. But, and everybody lies during the draft. But, be forthright. Be like, at least where you can. It's not that hard. And there's things that aren't going to impact, that aren't competitive advantages or tampering or anything else that you can fully say to the press and it build a rapport. It's people are less likely to go at you if they like you. And being secretive and combative with the media and the fans isn't a way of getting people to like you. People hate Matt Nagy, but guess what? Like, not anything he does, they want to fire him. And, now that everybody's on board with, what, Matt Nagy should not be the head coach. Like, we just going at him double barrel. Same thing with Ryan Pace. Like, Ryan Pace is not like a guy that you could just, have a rapport with. You
rarely hear from him. He's invisible. You compare him to all the other executives in the city, he's invisible.
Yeah. It's like from the first Halloween movie, where Michael Myers is just watching by the clothesline and then they go to look and he's just gone again. That's Ryan Pace. He just sitting there lurking with that dumb stare of his. And then suddenly he's like, oh, wait, where did Ryan Pace go?
I disappeared. I got to collaborate so I can disappear.
And the crappy part is there's all these names of people that are like, oh, hey, this might probably be a good coach for the Bears. But like, number one, have we seen a team this year in the NFL that doesn't have some sort of huge warts?
I was saying this earlier today. As bad as the Bears have been, I can honestly say NFL as a whole has been kind of trash this year.
Like, there are no teams where you're just like, oh, absolute Super Bowl contender.
That was supposed to be the Bills, and look at them.
Yeah, the Bills have been trash.
The NFC was supposed to look up to the Rams, and they've had 3 duds in a row. Even after getting Odell Beckham and making a bunch of other trades to make their on-paper roster look absolutely stacked, it's just been a dud for them.
I mean, the Cowboys, everyone's like, oh, Cowboys, they got their asses kicked today.
Mm-hmm.
And people are like, oh, their offensive coordinator be good, head coaching material. But we saw what happens when they don't have 2 stud wide receivers. That whole offense goes to shit.
Yep.
They've got a stud running back, a pretty damn good offensive line, and a stud quarterback. And without their stud wide receivers, that offense sputtered. So that scares me.
And how many disappointing teams have there been too?
Right. I mean, let's see. The Cowboys got their asses kicked today, and they were a contender. The Cardinals, all right, they look pretty good, but they've had some duds too.
But they don't look the thing is, the Cardinals have been good, but they don't look like this team where it's like, wow, they're going to be so hard to beat.
They're only 3-2. They're only 3-2 at home.
Right.
The Rams should be dominating people, and they haven't. The 49ers are a bust. The Seahawks are, a team that
they're bad.
They're a disappointment. Packers, Packers, they've only lost once without Aaron Rodgers, with Aaron Rodgers. And then today they get beat by a mediocre at best Minnesota Vikings team.
Mm-hmm.
The Bears and the Lions stink. The Buccaneers are on a 2-game losing streak and don't look that good. They look confused. They can't win on the road. The Saints are like, they're a team that can beat any team on a given day, but then they can lose to anybody on a given day. And they're on a 3-game losing streak.
Yeah, that team looks really blah right now. Really, really blah. And, you had a glimpse of the Falcons looking decent, and now they just look awful now again.
Yeah, the Panthers were like, oh, man, did they figure things out with Cam Newton? Nope. The AFC, the Patriots still have a rookie quarterback. But the Bills are not that good. Like, they're,
we were talking Super Bowl with them. We were talking about one of the best teams in the league potentially.
Yep. And now they're second place in their division. The Patriots are probably going to win that division.
At this rate, yeah.
The Dolphins are trash. The Jets are trash. The Chiefs have gone through all kinds of struggles, even though they're winning. And they've had all kinds of struggles.
I still think at the end of the day, they'll be okay. Honestly.
They're still a good team, but they have huge weaknesses that somebody could exploit.
Oh, they do. It's just a matter of, can any other team actually take advantage of that? Because everyone else is kind of bleh.
Yeah, I mean, the Cowboys today offensively slowed it down, but they just couldn't score any points on them.
Right.
The Chargers are okay, but they're nothing special.
Justin Herbert needs more around him.
Yes. The Raiders are the Raiders. They're terrible.
Yep.
Remember when the beginning of the season we're like, oh man, the Raiders are like 4-0.
That was such a mirage.
Oh my God. They were like 4-0. Now they're 5-5, which means that they have gone 1-5 since that start.
Granted, I think the John Gruden stuff has kind of derailed everything, or at least has been a part of that derailing, but still.
The Broncos are bad. The Ravens are, some weeks you're like, oh man, this team's really good. And then some weeks you're like, what the hell happened to this team? The Steelers are bad. The Bengals are a mirage. The Browns are a mirage. The Titans, we thought they were good, but they laid an egg today.
Losing Derrick Henry hurts them real bad.
Yeah, it does. The Colts are, at least the Titans are going to get Derrick Henry back by the postseason.
Yeah.
The Colts are just mediocre. The Texans and the Jaguars are bad. So who are these elite teams?
I hate to say it, but I'm tempted to say the Packers are the best team of the bunch. I mean, overall.
I mean, I would
even
say
if they have their warts.
Yeah, I would say probably the Packers and the Titans.
Yeah, and I think if the Titans get they get Derrick Henry back and he's healthy and he's going, that's going to be a tough team to beat. And I still do think that the Chiefs can come around when they need to. But yeah, I mean, outside like those three teams, when healthy, when at full strength, the Cowboys have been really good this year. But I don't know, man. There's just, I got to believe it to see it. I got to see it to believe it, I should say, with them when it comes to like late see. How many times have we seen it where they get off to pretty good starts and, we're saying, how about them boys? And then things kind of fall apart. Not saying that that's going to necessarily happen this year, but I just got to see it first.
Yeah. And, the Eagles are actually playing well.
Yeah.
In some respects.
Start, yeah.
So let's see if they push the Cowboys at all.
Yeah, that'll be interesting. I mean, Jalen Hurts has looked a little bit better for the Eagles, and they've seemed to kind of stabilize things over there. And yeah, I mean, we'll see how the Cowboys do. And I don't necessarily dislike the Cowboys. I just, what was it, 2019 when they got off to a really good start? And then, they lost to the Bears on that Thursday night game? It was either a Monday night or a Thursday night game. And then everything just kind of fell apart for them. So we'll see what happens. And, they've, over the years with Dak Prescott, they've had big injuries happen at inconvenient times. So, can they stay healthy and can they stay the course is going to be one of the big questions.
Yeah, absolutely. Man, the Eagles lost to the Raiders. Oof. I'm looking. The Eagles are. I think the Eagles might be a mirage too. They can put up points offensively, but their wins are against the Falcons, the Panthers with Sam Darnold.
I could see the Eagles being a wild card team and just not making it very far.
They beat the Lions. They beat the Broncos. They beat the Saints. Like, they haven't beat anybody. And then next week, they've got the Giants. They're a nobody team. Then the Jets. Then the Redskins. I'm sorry, the Washington football team. Then the Giants again. Then the Washington football team. Like, they've gone this whole season without playing any. This has got to be the easiest schedule. Let's see. They played the Falcons, the 49ers, the Cowboys twice, the Chiefs, the Panthers, the Buccaneers, the Raiders, the Lions, the Chargers, the Broncos, the Saints, the Giants twice, the Jets, Washington twice, and the Cowboys twice. Like, that is a pretty cake schedule, man.
Yeah, it must be nice.
Oof. Like, they really have, like, so far, they've played the Chiefs and the Buccaneers and the Cowboys. Those are the only three legitimate teams they played, and they got routed in all three of them. I take that back. They only lost by a touchdown to the Buccaneers, but they lost by 2 touchdowns to the Chiefs, and they lost by 3 touchdowns to the Cowboys. Like, man. But they're, you know what? What's their standing? They're 5-6 right now, and they're going to beat the Giants. They're going to beat the Jets. They're going to beat Washington at least once. They'll beat the Giants again. They're going to wind up with 10 wins, 9-10 wins, and being a completely bogus garbage team because they've got a garbage schedule.
Yeah, well, there's always one of those teams.
Oh, well. But I do today want to give high praise to Roquan Smith.
Yeah.
Roquan Smith had 17 tackles today. That puts him in 10 games so far, 110 tackles this season. Robert Quinn had 2 sacks last year. And so far in 10 games this year, he's got 10 sacks.
He played really well today, too.
Yep.
The Bears got to the quarterback. I mean, you got to give him that.
But I want to point this out, too, is since Matt Nagy has been the head coach of the Bears, 60 games so far, the Bears have 10 points or fewer at halftime in 36 of the 60 games.
So more than half.
More than half.
Wow.
You had success running the ball today, and you in a game where it was 16-13. So it was not a high scoring affair where you were far behind and you had to come back. They rushed. The running backs had 15 carries. David Montgomery got 14 carries for 58 yards, and Khalil Herbert got 1 carry.
Yep.
And, Cairo Santos had a missed field goal that turned out to be very important. But you know what? It's a windy Soldier Field, kicking against the wind. Shit happens,
And the turf was awful again.
This team is just a disaster. And honestly, I beg for the football gods to force the Bears to sell.
Don't we all? And if there was any hopes of the Bears actually making a run at the playoffs, I mean, this week had to kill it right, because we didn't even talk about this yet. I mean, not only did you lose today to drop to 7-3, Khalil Mack is done for the year.
Yes, Khalil Mack is done for the season. And and even if he wasn't, what good is having him play?
Yeah, I mean, it sucked to hear that news, but it's like, get healthy now. So instead of playing 80% like you have been, get ready to play 100% next year. In a season that's, lost.
Yeah. What purpose does him playing the rest of the season matter? You're not going anywhere.
No. And you know what, Sean? I'm going to say this too. I was saying this after the game today. It might be a blessing in disguise that we lost this game, just like the last game. Because think about it. Let's say they won today. Let's say they beat the Lions on Thanksgiving. And they're back to a game under. With the way this is going, you're well in the hunt again. And it just like last year. And everybody knew that last year's playoff team was not going anywhere. And that kept everything status quo. Did we really want to go through that again?
Absolutely. I mean, had they beat they should have beat the Steelers. They should have won today. If they win those 2 games, and assuming they beat the Lions Thursday,
which is I know it sounds crazy talking about an 0-9-1 team, but I'm going to say, even with Boyle at quarterback, I know it sounds like an automatic win. I'm going to tell you right now, I think it's far from automatic.
I want to slow your roll a little bit on that one. If Jared Goff plays, then maybe. But I want to point out that Tim Boyle, he played 4 years of college football. One of them he played at a Division II school. So taking out that Division II school, he played 3 years of Division I football. And in his NFL career and his 3 years of actually playing college football, how many touchdowns do you think he's thrown?
Ooh, I don't know how much.
Just take a guess.
You said 4 years?
He played 3 years Division I football and then his NFL career. How many touchdowns do you think he has thrown?
Was he a starter all those 3 years?
Let me see. He played in 25 games.
25 games. 18?
Is that including his NFL career too?
Yes.
Including his NFL career, he has 1 touchdown pass.
Are you serious?
In his first year at UConn, he had 0 touchdowns and 8 interceptions. His second year at UConn, he had 1 touchdown and 3 interceptions. His third year at UConn, he had 0 touchdowns and 2 interceptions. Then he transferred to a Division II school where he threw 11 touchdowns and 13 interceptions. And
wow.
And in those 4 years combined, 3 in Division I and 1 in Division II, he has a negative 162 yards rushing. And he's a 55% completion percentage. And somehow this man convinced an NFL team to give him a job.
Yeah, wow. Unless the Lions just said, you know what, we just want a tank. So yeah, come aboard.
Well, he was on the Packers practice squad.
That's right, he was. I forgot about that.
And today he comes in and he throws for 77 yards and 2 touchdowns and no interceptions and a 34% quarterback rating. That man, if he plays Thursday, is bad. He's not a good quarterback. There can't be a way the Bears lose to Tim Boyle.
I don't know. You use Swift, you pound the ball with him. Bears offense does nothing. You win 13-10. I'm very convinced the Bears are going to lose this game. It would be the most Bears thing ever to give the Lions their first win. I'm convinced of that at this point. The thing is, you just lost to Tyler Hundley at home after a bye week.
But at least that's like a winning team, even though they're missing a lot of players and they have a real head coach. And
I mean, that's their one saving grace. Yes.
The Lions are a bad team that don't have any talent. And they literally are they're starting the worst quarterback in football.
I don't know, man. I don't know. I just have that feeling. I mean, they should win. They really, really should. Regardless if it's Dalton or Fields starting. And frankly, I'd be tempted to start Dalton if there's any sort of concern about Justin Fields' ribs. I mean, if it was a week from today, I'd say, yeah, if he feels good to go, good to go. But this game is in a few days.
And the crazy thing is all right. So let's go back though. My point being is that if the refs didn't steal that game against the Steelers, and the Bears don't give up that drive at the end of the game to a first-year quarterback, and then they take care of business against the Lions, they would be 6-5, and they wouldn't be in the hunt. They would be in the playoffs if the season were to end at the end of next weekend.
And they'd be in the playoffs as a team that has scored 22 points is their highest so far this season, I believe. Or was it what was last I can't remember the final score last week. But have they eclipsed 24 points this year?
Let's see.
I'm going on now.
14 against the Rams. 20 against the Bengals, 6 against the Browns, 24 against the Lions, 20 against the Raiders.
Okay, they did get 27 last week.
Yeah, they got 27 last week.
Once they've gotten 27 points. Once.
Yep. So their point totals this year are 14, 20, 6, 24, 20, 14, 3, 22, 27, and 13.
Yeah. Yeah. They'd somehow be a playoff team if those other things went their way.
And in 7 of their 10 games, they have failed to exceed 20 points.
And you had 24 or more twice, and you've yet to break the 30 mark. What I want to know is there another team out there that hasn't at least gotten 30 points? I don't know about the Lions. Like, again, I really don't know. But it feels like the Bears, if you would have told me, let's just say this, if you would have told me the Bears are the only team in football that hasn't eclipsed the 30-point mark, I'd believe you.
Let's see. The Lions have exceeded 30 points.
There you go.
Let's see, have the Jets?
Yeah, didn't they do that with that Mike White guy?
I think they did. Let's see. The Jets have scored 30 points. The Jets have scored 30 points multiple times. All right. The Jaguars could not have scored 30 points.
Oh, good point. I don't know if they have.
The Jaguars have not. The Jaguars might be the team, the only offense that's more futile than the Bears. Let's see. Oh, no, that's sorry, that was preseason. The Jaguars have scored 21, 13, 19, 21, 19, 23, 7, 9, 17, 10.
Congratulations, Bears. You're better than the Jaguars. A team that was on an 0-20 streak. Congratulations.
Oh, man. The 49ers have scored 30. The last 2 games. Rams have definitely scored 30 because then they dropped 30 on you. Colts
Green Bay's dropped 30. The
Colts have dropped 30.
The Vikings. The Buccaneers.
The Buccaneers dropped 30 on you.
Yeah. Pretty sure the Browns have.
Let's see. Have the Steelers dropped 30 points this year?
Well, they dropped close, 29 against us.
Yeah, they didn't. The Steelers have not broken 30 points.
So even if the Bears are not the only one, it's still a small handful of teams.
Yeah, it's a pretty small sample size of teams that haven't scored 30 points.
And to no shock, the Bears are one of them.
Yeah, I'm trying to think. I'm sure the Broncos have not scored 30 points either. Broncos schedule. The Broncos have scored 30. Have the Cowboys scored 30?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, they dropped 43 last week.
Yeah, I was going to say.
Who else? Have the Dolphins scored 30? I think they have.
I think they have too.
I think one game Tua went off.
Cardinals have scored 30.
Oh, yeah. Absolutely.
Have the Texans scored 30?
The Dolphins have scored 28 a couple of times, but have not scored 30.
Really? Huh.
Texans schedule. Have the Texans scored 30? The Texans have scored 30.
Wow.
They dropped 37 on the Jaguars in the
Who's their
season opener.
Who's their quarterback these days?
Tyrod Taylor.
Ah, that's right. It was Tyrod Taylor.
The guy who had the worst luck out of any quarterback.
Yeah, I've always said Tyrod Taylor is better than his stats show. I'm not saying he's great, but
no, he's definitely not great, but he's much better than he gets credit for.
I agree.
See, the Eagles, Cowboys, Washington football team all have scored 30 points. Have the Giants scored 30 points?
Oh, that's a good question. I've paid virtually no attention to the Giants this year.
Yeah, I sort of forgot that they existed.
Which it's kind of rare to say that.
They have not. They did score 29 in a game, which they lost 30-29. So that's like 3 teams that haven't scored 30, but they've all come closer than the Bears. I'm sure the Seahawks have scored 30. Yes, they have. Yeah, so we're looking at the Bears, the Giants, the Dolphins. Are those the only teams and the only teams that haven't scored, or Jaguars that haven't scored 30 points? Some good company there.
Woo!
Some real good company.
I mean, it's bad when our good standard, wow, they did it, is scoring 20.
Whoa, man. Woo. But I don't know. I'm fully expecting the Bears to win next week or this, I don't know, Thursday, Thanksgiving. But it's not going to be a fun game. It's going to be a really terrible game to watch.
I'm gonna try to enjoy my Thanksgiving. Ugh. Nobody wants to watch that garbage.
No, definitely not. Yeah. And assuming that Jared Goff is out.
What did happen to Jared Goff? Was he hurt? Is he sick?
Oblique injury.
Oh, I'd be shocked if he turned around and played again this week.
Yeah, I don't think he will. He's listed as doubtful going into that game.
Yeah. I just wonder if Fields or Dalton's going to be the quarterback for the Bears.
Honestly, if Matt Nagy's going to be the head coach, I want it to be Andy Dalton, just because Justin Fields is getting punished. And
he's getting his spleen observed at the hospital, according to reports.
Yeah, and he's going to get gun shy, and he's going to start seeing ghosts. And honestly, the only thing I can really criticize him for is the ball security, where he's lost a bunch of fumbles. He needs to secure the ball better. But honestly, other than that, that offense is just bad. And he's running for his life. And I want to say, oh, hey, be more decisive when you decide you're going to tuck it and run. But when have I been in that position that I can just be like, you know what? He's a rookie in a bad offensive system with a bad head coach that doesn't want to play him and that got bullied into it.
Yeah, and look, in terms of this coming game against Detroit, like I said before, if there's any injury fear or any injury concerns with him, do you really want to risk his health by playing in some meaningless game in Detroit against the Lions?
Yeah, none whatsoever.
I mean, look, I don't want listeners to say, oh, Alex wants Andy Dalton to start and Justin Fields. I just don't want him to get hurt in a game where he doesn't really need to be in. I know we want him to play as much as possible and get him as much experience as possible. And if he was fully healthy, he'd obviously be playing in that game for every reason. But if, there's issues with the mid-body, the ribs, just don't get him hurt. Just rest him, let Andy Dalton play, and, let Justin Fields heal up. I don't want to risk anything with him in a game like this. Could you imagine if we found out that Justin Fields had to end his season early because of something that happened due to an injury that was made worse in Detroit?
Yeah, that would be really frustrating. But honestly, here's the factors is he got hurt in this game, and this is a short turnaround time. Sunday to Thursday morning. So number one, that's a short turnaround time after he got injured. Number two is I'm assuming Matt Nagy's going to still be the head coach, and he is going to get that kid killed. Where he calls the game differently, clearly for Andy Dalton. So let Andy Dalton play this one. And we know what we have in Justin Fields. We have what our expectations are, and we feel good about his long-term future. It's don't let Matt Nagy ruin more than he's already ruined when he's going out the door.
Yeah. And look, Justin Fields is fully healthy after this game. I want him to play the rest of the season. I'm not going to hide that fact. It's just with this short turnaround time. And, we'll see what happens tomorrow when, we're recording this podcast on Sunday night. So when you're listening to this, we'll probably know more about Justin Fields' health. So it'll be curious to see. But, even if we find out more and there's any sort of doubt, it's like, well, if you're having any sort of doubt Monday and the game is Thursday, that's not much of a turnaround time.
Right. Should we move on to another sport?
Sure.
What do you want to talk first?
I guess we'll save the best for last, aka the Bulls. So we'll go hockey.
Yeah, since we last talked, the Blackhawks have only had 2 games. They're playing tonight. They played against the Kraken for the very first time and got a nice 4-2 win. And it was part of a 4-game win streak for the new head coach, which was nice to see.
It was. And it was cool seeing them play in Seattle. And correct me if I'm wrong, but that Climate Change Arena, that was basically renovated from the stadium that the Sonics used to play in, correct?
I'm not sure, but that would make sense.
But, either way, you go to a new environment and obviously everyone's jacked up. It's like, okay, you got an original 6 team in here playing this new team with a new fan base. You got some Hawks fans that traveled there. You got a bunch of excited new Kraken fans that are there. It was on national TV, so it was a good atmosphere, fun to watch. And Marc-Andre Fleury had a really great game. And Alex DeBrincat had a Gordie Howe hat trick.
That was what I was about to bring up, is the Gordie Howe hat trick, which is a goal, an assist, and a fist fight.
You don't see a lot of those anymore.
No, you don't.
I never get why they called it a Gordie Howe hat trick. Gordie Howe didn't fight.
I don't know. Gordie Howe pre my time.
Yeah, but boy, did he play for a long time.
He did. He did play for a really long time.
He's out there playing with his kids, gray hair, looking ancient, and he's still out there skating with some of the best players. Really impressive. But anyway, yeah, it was cool to see Alex DeBrincat do that. I mean, he's been the one consistent Hawk this year. I don't think Taze even has a goal yet.
I don't think he does. Kane has been very good, but DeBrincat has been a really good player. It was a nice win. Kane also had a goal and an assist in this game, and a couple of goals from defensemen. My big concern was the face-off dot. You were under 40% in that game, which was a little concerning. But overall, you played pretty well, and it was nice to go in there and get that win. But then you turn around and you face the Oilers. And I get it. The Oilers are a better team top to bottom than you are.
They're really good.
But the Blackhawks just shot themselves in the foot whenever they could and looked so bad. So bad. I mean, they gave up 2 shorties. And just so many mistakes. That Seth Jones drop pass on a power play. Yeah, I mean, it was putting a shorthanded goal on a tee for you. It was embarrassing.
Yeah, after a productive game in Seattle, Seth Jones really had a rough one in Edmonton.
Yeah, he did. And I mean, overall, they all did. Lankinen had a tough game in goal. Alex DeBrincat was the only one that seemed to play well.
Yeah, I mean, give Alex DeBrincat credit. Like I said, he's the most consistent Hawk out there. Even when things aren't necessarily going great, he's still contributing.
Right. But it was a frustrating game. And, they're playing right now as we're recording against Vancouver. And it is scoreless in the second.
Yeah, I've been flipping between the Bulls and the Hawks tonight. And I've seen Marc-Andre Fleury is making some more big stops here. So, that's good to see. You knew that winning streak was going to come to an end, and I wasn't surprised it was against the Oilers, but I was really happy to see, once again, I'm going to be referencing that Kraken game. I was really happy to see Marc-Andre Fleury look more like Marc-Andre Fleury. You saw a lot of those coast-to-coast saves that he used to make in his prime and how he's able to cover up the puck outside the crease when needed to. We were really not seeing that vintage Marc-Andre Fleury under Colleton. And I mean, it's hard to when you're getting annihilated every 2 seconds, but it kind of looked like his confidence was a little off. He looks more confident to me in net and more like the guy who's a Vezina winner and a 3-time Stanley Cup champion.
Right. Yeah. This Blackhawks team is like, I know they're not good, and it was probably a little bit of a mirage when Colleton got fired and King stepped in, and they go on a winning streak. But they've got to be better than what they've been, right? They have to be better than their record.
Yeah, like you said, they're not good, but they should be competitive. You have enough talent that can win you some games on given nights. You also have enough guys that have been around long enough, whether or not they're star players like Kane or just, solid veteran guys like Connor Murphy, where you can go out and you can win some games. You're not a Stanley Cup contender. Them making the playoffs is an extreme long shot because you got to dig yourself out of a massive hole. But yeah, you shouldn't be as bad as the record shows. When they were under Colleton, everybody knew the team was better than that.
Yeah, but they were terrible. They have to be able to play better. And, we have seen them defensively being much better the last 5 games. Oh, take out the Oilers game. The 4 previous games to that, defensively, you saw them playing much better. It was a big stark difference under King than Colleton. And he's not really doing anything differently schematically or, as far as how they're playing. It is just, tweaking a few things and better execution.
It, yeah.
Yes. And so you hope you continue that growth. And I feel bad because King is sort of in a weird position because you are in the middle of a season. Can you really start making wholesale changes? You're sort of stuck doing tweaks and fixes, and it's not a fair representation of who you are, because had you had a whole off season, you could really implement some things to show, what your talent is as a coach. So now he's going to be judged on being the the interim coach replacing a really bad head coach.
Yeah. And, there have been people saying, at the start, should that offer, help offer a full-time position for King? And I think King and everybody else in the organization is saying, no, everything you see this year in terms of front office and coaching is all interim basis. Everything should be determined in the offseason. The first thing you need to do is hire either a president of hockey operations and a GM, or a GM, and you let those people bring in their guys.
I agree with you. It just sucks that Derek King it's nice that he's getting an opportunity. It sucks that it's not a full opportunity for him to showcase himself. And, I'm assuming the Blackhawks will get a veteran coach.
There's veteran coaches that are going to be available.
Yes, there's absolutely going to be veteran coaches available, like good veteran coaches. But I'm assuming the Blackhawks are going to go after one. I just hope, Derek King gets more recognition and gets the opportunity, because he seems like a good dude.
Yeah, I agree.
And we're already seeing some improvements over Colleton.
I agree. And I also think, too, looking at some of the guys who are available, you can kind of narrow down on some of your ideal candidates. Like, if I were to look at the veteran coaches, I think Claude Julien would be among more of the higher guys I'd want, because I'm a little hesitant on guys like Babcock or Tortorella. I don't think Tortorella wants to be part of a rebuilding team.
I hate
And
John Tortorella. I do not want him anywhere near this team.
yeah, I mean the guy knows hockey, but I don't think he'd be a good fit here. And I think Babcock would probably have a similar feeling. I don't know if he'd come to this kind of a team, and I'm not sure I'd want Babcock at this point. If you would have told me that you could get Babcock in 2012, boy, I'd be all over that, but it's not 2012.
Right. Yeah, I would say Claude Julien would be, a solid candidate. Rick Tocchet.
Now, did Boudreau retire? Or is he coaching? I can't even remember.
I don't know.
But either way, what I'd hope for is that they can go out and they could just find the right guy that fits in with their philosophy. But what you got to do first is you got to hire the right GM or president, and you got to establish a new philosophy, and then you kind of go from there. That's why I want them to hire their higher ups first before they make a coaching decision.
Well, yeah, you need to do that because there's nobody there available to even hire somebody.
Unless Danny Wirtz just hired somebody, but you're not going to see that.
I don't think that. I think they'll hire their front office.
Right. I don't think the Wirtz are going to really get involved with hockey operations outside hiring the people.
So I'm looking at an article from Fansided. There's 3 bold replacements for Jeremy Colleton. 1, Jay Leech. Instead of recycling the old guard of head coaches that haven't worked out in other places, it's sometimes a good idea to go with a different direction. The Blackhawks did that with Jeremy Colleton, but anyone was going to fail with that roster in that situation. Replacing Joel Quenneville was an impossible task. The Blackhawks should give Jay Leach, who is currently serving as an assistant coach for the Seattle Kraken. Before landing that job, he was the head coach of the Providence Bruins in the AHL and assistant coach for the Wilkes-Barre Scranton Penguins. With the Penguins organization, he learned from Mike Sullivan, who's now one of the best in NHL. He's going to have opportunities in the NHL, and the Blackhawks would be wise to give him the first one. Coming over from the Kraken to the Hawks as a head coach would also be a good thing for him and his family if it worked out. There's plenty of good that can come from a hire like this. He seems like the kind of coach who can come from nowhere to lead a team to some major success. The young players in the Chicago Blackhawks organization would benefit from someone like this, and that should be considered for number 1 priority going forward. Number 2, Bruce Boudreau. If there was an older coach that's been around to consider bringing back, it's Bruce Boudreau. He has been an elite NHL coach a very long time, and he would like to have one more kick at the can. The Chicago Blackhawks would be a perfect fit for him to try one more time at making an impact on the National Hockey League. One of the reasons that Jeremy Colleton didn't work out for them was because of the fact that he didn't have a strong enough voice. He was around the same age as the veterans that have won championships, which made him things appear weird. Boudreau is an older gentleman that has a serious amount of success in the NHL as an NHL coach. He has spent time as the head coach of the Washington Capitals, the Anaheim Ducks, and the Minnesota Wild, where he made the playoffs many times. He has coached star players like Ryan Getzlaf, Corey Perry, Teemu Solani, Alex Ovechkin, Nicholas Backstrom, and Zach Parise. So he would be able to handle Chicago's best. Boudreau would also probably enjoy having the opportunity to coach the Hawks since he was a player for them at one point. He only played in 7 games for them after spending 6 years with the Toronto Maple Leafs, but he did score a goal for Chicago. It would be really cool to see him make his way back and try to get the Blackhawks team going again.
So he's not retired?
No. And then the third one is Kevin Dineen. When the Chicago Blackhawks fired Joel Quenneville to hire Jeremy Colleton, Kevin Dineen was also fired as an assistant coach. He was one of the assistant coaches when they won the Stanley Cup in 2015 and did a very good job. Letting him go was a very bad mistake by Stan Bowman. Now would be a great time to bring him back if Derek King doesn't return. This would be his second stint as an NHL head coach, as he was with the Florida Panthers for a couple of seasons about a decade ago. That experience was something that was good for him, and as he tries to make it as a coach, he's probably going to be an NHL again, head coach again sometime soon. Since being fired by the Hawks, he has had some interesting jobs in the sport. He spent time as the head coach of the San Diego Gull, who are the AHL affiliate of the Anaheim Ducks. He didn't return when his contract was up, but he had a good amount of success there. In August of 21, the New Jersey Devils hired him to be the head coach of their AHL affiliate, the Utica Comets. So far, they are the best team in the NHL and a serious Calder Cup contender. He is also looking like a coach in the AHL that should be back in the NHL in short order. Keep an eye on the Comets as they continue to have one of the best starts in the AHL history. Prior to being hired by Chicago, back in 2014, he was also had a significant amount of success as the head coach of Team Canada, including a gold medal in the Olympic Games for the women's team. All of these different jobs should lead to a wealth of knowledge that would serve him well in the NHL again. If the Hawks wanted to go that route, he would be a great hire. So, I don't know. We'll see. I think they'll go veteran coach. I don't think they risk it by going a young coach or inexperienced coach again.
Yeah.
It's one of those things. Is like you always go knee-jerk reaction to the opposite of whatever you hired, and you always talk about, they had a hard-nosed manager, they fired him, they went with a player-friendly manager. The same thing. You hired somebody that's very inexperienced, you're going to hire somebody that's much more experienced this time, I feel.
Yeah, I can agree with that. Like you said, we'll see. There's a long way to go before the season's end.
Oh yeah. I mean, there's a hell of a long way to go. This season is still just kicking off. But it would be nice to see the Blackhawks at least figure it out enough to make it to the Stanley Cup playoffs and make some noise before they bow out.
Yeah.
I have no delusions that they're going to win it, but it would be nice for them to just go in and cause havoc, or make it difficult for a contending team.
For sure.
And then we could talk here about the Bulls. What to say? This is a very good team. They are without Leech right now, who is in COVID protocol. But on this West Coast trip that they're now back from, this week they handled the Lakers and dominated them. I'm sure it was without LeBron James, but they absolutely manhandled the Lakers. They beat Portland. I'm sorry, they lost a close one to Portland, and then they beat the Denver Nuggets.
Yeah, that Portland loss was brutal. You had the 20-point lead, and it just looked like you ran out of gas, and that was a tough one. But I mean, the back-to-back wins in LA against the Clippers and the Lakers, that Lakers game was awesome. And just watching Zach LaVine and watching DeMar DeRozan just go crazy, it was a lot of fun. And then after that awful loss against Portland, you were able to beat Denver. And I get it, Joker was out and they had guys missing. But you know what? The guys on the Bulls, they were playing shorthanded too. And, Zach LaVine hit how many clutch threes in that fourth quarter to seal it? I mean, that was really good to see.
Yeah, the Portland game was tough. Is like you said, they had that huge lead. They had a 20-point lead at one point. They had a big halftime lead. They were leading going into the fourth quarter, although it was a small lead at that point. But it was like a tale of two halves. The first half, you played really great defensively. You held CJ McCollum scoreless in the first half. Dame Lillard only had 6 points in the first half. And then you came out and then you saw the second half, they try to use their size against you and the lack of size on the Bulls really sort of showed. So you had Norman Powell and Larry Nance Jr. kind of picked up the slack from the first half and sort of dominate. And DeMar DeRozan went cold. And with all that is Zach LaVine had a wide open 3-point opportunity at the end of the game that would have put it to overtime.
Yeah.
And he missed it. And I think, from his sound of it is, I think he was so shocked to be that wide open. He probably forced it a little bit because he hit it off the front of the rim. But on a road trip like that, you're due for a loss.
If you would have told me beforehand that the Bulls would have gone 3-2 in that road trip without Vucevic, I would have said, yeah, okay.
Yeah, I mean, especially against the teams you're playing.
Yeah.
And you could try to knock those wins because, this guy didn't play or that guy didn't play, but that's every team. It's the NBA. You can't have your full squad with you every night. Guys are injured, guys, get rest. Now the guys get COVID. And the Lakers, even without LeBron, should be a much better team than they should be at least a decent team. AD is still on the team, and the Bulls just handle them. The Nuggets, it wasn't the best night that they had, but they had a big third quarter, got 36 points from Zach. You had a big jump from the bench in Derek Jones and DeSumo had, I think, combined 26 points.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that was big.
And you're seeing, the energy and athleticism from Javonte Green and Derek Jones off the bench. So, you're seeing some good things. It'll be nice, once they're fully healthy, and you get Vucevic back, and Pat Williams, but and in the meantime, you sort of got to ride out where you are.
Yeah, and it's not looking so hot against the Knicks right now, but I know there's another quarter to play as we're watching in the third quarter, and this one might end up being a loss, but once you get back to being healthy, then you got to feel really good, and even if Vooch wasn't scoring the way you'd like to necessarily, his presence and getting those rebounds was huge.
Right. I mean, it's clearly multiple steps higher than Tony Bradley.
Yeah, and no disrespect to him, but I mean, one is just clearly the better star player.
Yeah. But so far this season in what they played, like 14 games.
Something like that. I don't know exactly how many.
They've had 8 games with Zach LaVine and DeMar DeRozan scoring at least 25 points each.
Yeah, there you go.
So yeah, I mean, this team has been doing it with good defense, good scoring depth. We're so used to seeing Zach LaVine being the only scoring option, and DeMar DeRozan is really, really opening it up and providing extra scoring. And it's funny because so many people called that like the worst signing of the free agency period, and it has been such like that is a huge part of the difference between this year and last year is having a DeMar DeRozan.
No, absolutely. Yeah, I mean, there was so much doubt for whatever reason, and he's just proving everybody wrong. It's been great.
I can't figure it out. It's like, I didn't know how it would play out, but I'm always of the mind that if if you add talented players, it's never a bad thing. And I just didn't know how they were gonna, be able to have enough basketballs for the players, but it really is working out. I just don't understand the so-called experts that are just like, oh no, that's a bad signing. Is DeMar DeRozan is a very good basketball player, and you can't have too many good basketball players on your team.
No, you can't.
So it was a huge signing, and I haven't watched very much of the game tonight.
Yeah, Zach LaVine is struggling tonight. The shooting is struggling tonight, and Bulls are getting in foul trouble, and they're getting out rebounded, out hustled. It's not looking good.
Yeah, I'm just looking at the numbers, and Zach is 0 for on 3-pointers, only 5 of 17 from the field.
He just missed another one.
Yeah, and it sucks because it's Joakim Noah bobblehead night.
Yeah.
A friend of mine, she's a huge Joakim Noah fan, and I sent her the picture today of what the bobblehead was, and she's like, "Oh, I'm aware." She's like, "I wish I could find a way to the game tonight."
Yeah, I saw that bobblehead too. I want one as well because I loved Joe.
It's such a good bobblehead. Like, it's funny. Like, I'm not a bobblehead collector. I think for the most part they're kind of dumb, but I have a bunch of them from different events, and I'm always like, well, this one's cool. I'm not going to get rid of this one. And then I look and I'm like, man, I have like 15 bobbleheads.
It's funny because bobbleheads, like, they vary so much in quality. Like, a quality bobblehead is always worth having, in my opinion, but there are some really bad ones out there.
I know we've talked about it before, but do you remember the A-Train Anthony Thomas bobblehead?
I do.
That was an example of a poorly made bobblehead.
Do you remember the Chris Bryant one?
No.
That one was bad. That one was really bad.
I mean, but at least it probably wasn't racist.
No, it wasn't. It just didn't look good.
I mean, like, I can handle not looking good, but I mean, the Anthony Thomas one looked like he was in blackface. It was so bad. I don't know who approved that. Somebody looked at that and was like, "Oh yeah, that's a go right there."
Yeah. Yeah, I don't know who approves that stuff. Maybe they have a budget.
I mean, it is so bad, and I just, woof. Yeah, but I remember a few years ago, before the season before the pandemic, we went to the Bears Family Fest, and we got there a little late because my wife, tangent story. I always tell my wife that she has a giant purse, and she doesn't believe me. But the NFL agreed with me that she had too big of a purse to bring it into the stadium. So
Really?
So we had to go and rent a locker outside the stadium to put her purse in because it was too big to bring in. So we ended up we were already running late, and it made us more late. So they were out of the bobbleheads that they were giving away of Bill George, and my daughter didn't get one, and she was very bummed about it. And just randomly, this old man walked by, and he had like 3 of them, and he was like, "Did you get a bobblehead?" She goes, "No." And he goes, "Here you go." And the rest of the day, it was like a switch. She went from being upset to, "Oh, this is great because I got a bobblehead."
Well, it's funny. You remember back in 2014 when they had the 100th anniversary of Wrigley Field? They had all those promos and special giveaways and whatnot.
Mm-hmm.
Well, one that I went to with my brother was Gale Sayers bobblehead day, and Gale Sayers threw out the first pitch at Wrigley Field. And my dad was counting on me to bring him back a Gale Sayers bobblehead. And we got there a little too late, and we didn't get said bobblehead, and I've been getting crap for it ever since.
Oof. So it was a Gale Sayers bobblehead?
Mm-hmm.
Out of curiosity here. Gale Sayers.
From what I remember, it was a decently looking bobblehead.
Sometimes these bobbleheads, like you can get them on eBay for very little money.
I think part of the point with him was that he wanted it for free.
Okay, then there you go.
It's like if for those people who watch Seinfeld, it was like Elaine waiting for the guy's number so she could get her free bad sub. She wanted the free bad sub that she earned.
I can relate to that. It's funny, like a lot of these times I'll go to conventions or go to sporting events and I'm like, I have to get this item for free that I don't want and it's not worth any money, and just to have it.
Oh yeah, totally. Absolutely. Like, dang it, man, when I was a kid, even if the pens didn't work half the time, I'd have to collect my pens from the Holiday Inn Express.
Do you know how many like drawstring backpacks I have for different companies?
Oh, I used to have a ton of those.
Man, the Joakim Noah bobblehead from tonight is already on eBay for $130.
Oh, wow. Well, do you remember in 2017 when they had the Bryant to Rizzo final out bobblehead?
Vaguely.
People were like Black Friday mauling each other for them.
Oh, man.
And then there was the time they had the Javier Baez bobblehead, and thousands of people waited outside like the gates just to get it. Like, you looked at the pictures, it's like, holy crap. All these people came to the gates early just to get their bobblehead.
That's just wild to me. Like, I love that stuff, but like, I'm not going to like get somewhere that early or it cause a scene. My friend from college, he got a job, I think it was our senior year at Wrigley Field, and he worked in the outfield in the bleachers. And that season, they decided that they were not going to give the bleacher seats the giveaways until after the game. And it was floppy hat day. And the entire crowd in the bleachers was drunk and pissed, and they were chanting floppy hat, floppy hat.
That's amazing.
So he's like, I was really worried I was going to get murdered over a 50-cent floppy hat.
You're just at the bottom of this dog pile as people are fighting for floppy hats, and you're just, as they're all over you at the bottom.
Pretty much. Stupid floppy hats.
But you know what? Those floppy hats probably would have served well in the bleachers during the day for the game.
Probably.
I mean, think about it. I mean, I assume this was back. Well, when was college for you? What years would that have been?
95 to 99.
Okay, so I mean, they had night games, obviously, but that was still when they only played very few, from what I remember.
Yeah, there weren't that many. They were all mostly day games.
Right. Yeah, because they started playing a lot more night games. I'd say mid late 2000s.
I think that's probably fair. Fair guess.
Yeah, yeah. I it would be even funnier if they just left out the hat part in the chant and just went floppy, floppy, floppy.
Floppy, floppy. Oh man.
But it's some of those giveaways, like you go to games, some are really cool. Like I once got from the Hawks, my dad and we got light up goal lamp Christmas ornaments. Those were cool. It looked like a goal lamp and you could turn it on and off. And they even made noise. That was a cool giveaway.
I have a Craig Kimbrell Chia Pet.
What? When was that?
This past year.
Was that a White Sox or a Wrigley?
It was a Wrigley.
I don't remember that one.
Yeah, it was against the Phillies. Craig Kimbrell Chia Pet.
Was that the last game before everyone got traded?
It was close. It was that series against the Phillies where they won the one game and they got blown out. So it's like but it grows his chia beard.
Actually, now that I think about it, I think I do remember that. Do those chia pets actually ever work like they do in the commercials?
I don't know. It's still sitting in a box.
What are you waiting for, man? Grow that chia pet. You got a free chia pet. You don't have to call the 1-800 number at the certain time to get the second one free. You already got one free.
Oh, the chia pet. Craig Kimbrell chia pet. I've got a couple of them. I should give one to Gary.
Oh, there you go.
Now that it's his closer.
Yeah, right. I'm trying to think of other good giveaways I've gotten because, I feel like there have been others. Honestly, in terms of like promotions, nothing in my opinion will ever beat the old Bulls Big Mac tradition. You win 100+ points, free Big Macs for all. I loved that.
You know what's funny is like I'm vegetarian, so I don't eat the Big Mac. So like the few times I would go and I would have a winning Big Mac, I would just give it to random homeless people. And I know that probably caused some sort of mayhem when they went in to get a free Big Mac at McDonald's. They're like, get out of here, homeless person.
Well, it's a good thing you did.
All right, so I'm looking at Bleacher Report at what they call the best stadium giveaways. See, the Arizona Diamondbacks gave away a zombie bobblehead.
Okay.
The Cardinals gave away beer steins. The Blackhawks gave away replica championship ring pendants. They actually looks really cool. I would have liked to have had that one.
Oh, I think I remember that. I wasn't there, but I remember that giveaway.
The Reading Phillies, which is the AAA team for the Philadelphia Phillies, gave away Ryan Howard and the crazy hot dog vendor bobblehead.
I don't know what that is, but that sounds cool.
I mean, why in the world would there be would you have a bobblehead of the hot dog vendor? I have a really cool one. It is Madison Bumgarner as Han Solo across the table from Greedo shooting him.
That's an intricate bobblehead.
It really is. And I'm like Greedo is my favorite Star Wars character, so I bought it. And
Greedo's your favorite character, huh?
Yes, I don't know why. He just always has been since I was a little kid. And I think it might have been my first Star Wars action figure was Greedo. I don't know, but
I should have written to George McCaskey as Greedo. George McCaskey.
But so I bought this and I'm like, this is kind of ridiculous. It is literally the cantina scene with Greedo there and Madison Bumgarner as Han Solo.
Can we take a minute to just appreciate how great that cantina scene is?
It really is great.
You have all of these weird ass creatures from all ends of the galaxy. And, most of them are like, the slime balls and the mercenaries and, the scum that only do
the wretched hive of scum and villainy.
Yeah, exactly. And, you have, Pig Nose trying to pick a fight with Luke and Obi-Wan. Obi-Wan takes out his Jedi weapon, cuts his arm off, and everyone just kind of looks away. They're like, nah, yeah, typical day at the cantina.
Pretty much. The Toledo Mud Hens gave away Michael Jackson sequin gloves. Let's see. The Cubs gave away an Etch-a-Sketch.
Oh, that's always fun.
And a Viewmaster, a Cubs Viewmaster.
Oh, I forgot about this. I wanted to mention it on a show, but this is going to remind me of it now. In the 80s, because I saw a commercial for this, a throwback commercial for this on YouTube. In the 1980s, Burger King gave away Cubs radios in like their meals at one point. You know how Burger King and McDonald's does those giveaways in their meals or whatever. They did like a Cubs radio earpiece thing. Do you remember that by any chance?
I do. I actually do. I didn't have one, but I remember seeing them.
I wonder if they actually worked.
Probably not.
No.
This is a cool one. On back-to-back days, the San Francisco Giants gave away an R2-D2 San Francisco Giants winter hat and a Cat in the Hat, except it was the San Francisco Giants colors.
Oh, that's cool.
Can you imagine
awesome.
that crowd of weirdos wearing their San Francisco Giants Cat in the Hat hats?
They looked and they saw him stepping onto the mat. They looked and they saw him, the bum in the hat.
The Seattle Mariners in 2014 gave away winter hats that had beards attached to them, blonde beards.
Is it kind of like those? So it's like the hat, but like the beard is attached and you just kind of put it over your face?
Yes.
Yeah, okay.
The New Orleans Zephyrs gave away lightsabers.
Actual lightsabers? No, I'm kidding.
Those are some pretty cool ones.
Yeah. I remember the Cubs did an Obi-Wan Ben Zobrist bobblehead a few years ago.
Oh yeah, I remember that one.
That was a well done bobblehead. Because it actually looked like Ben Zobrist. He had like the Jedi robe. That was a cool one. I wish that's one I wish I had.
Oh, here's a good one. The Tampa Bay Rays gave away a bobblehead of Don Zimmer, except if Don Zimmer was a teddy bear.
Okay.
So he's got like furry head and teddy bear ears.
Okay. I'd love to be a fly on the wall in the board meeting for that one. All right, marketing team, we need a new idea for a giveaway.
The Minnesota Twins gave away Joe Mauer sideburns. So they're just like the fake mustaches, except they're sideburns that you just stick onto the side of your head.
When was that, I wonder?
This one does not say.
I just wonder if that was at the old Metrodome or Target Field. Probably be easier to pull off at the Metrodome so you don't have the cold winds of Minnesota blowing them off your face.
Right. Here's the White Sox gave away a bobblehead of Roger Bossard, the groundskeeper.
Oh, I think I remember that. Was that the Sod Father that they called?
Yes, the Sod Father. Why in the world would you make a bobblehead of your groundskeeper?
Hey, that groundskeeper is the best in the biz.
Oh my God. let's see. The St. Paul Saints minor league team gave away a miniature version of the Love Boat. The Pittsburgh Pirates gave away a bobblehead of the Pittsburgh Pirate Parrot.
It seems like a standard giveaway.
The Iowa Cubs gave away a bobblehead of player to be named later.
That's funny.
And it just says at the bottom where the nameplate should be, it says later. And on the back of the jersey, it says later and then the number 1.
Love it.
Let's see. The Marlins gave away pictures of somebody's bar mitzvah photo.
Wait, just some random bar mitzvah? It had to be somebody on the team. Or the Marlins that cheap, or like one like employee was just like, oh yeah, this was my nephew's bar mitzvah. Let's give away pictures of it. Let's just go to the copy machine, make a bunch of copies, and then give them away.
I don't know. Like some of these are just so weird. Like I get it, you want to have something interesting that people talk about, but oof.
Well, when we were cleaning out my grandma's house, we found a bunch of old Cubs giveaways going back to like the 1950s, and several Cabbage Patch Cubs giveaways. So like mini Cabbage Patch Kids with like Cub hat and jersey on. There
That's
was
cool.
a really cool one. That might actually be collectible. Like, that might actually be somewhat collectible. There was a really cool one where it was like a mug, like a mini mug, and it had inscribed on it Glenn Beckert's signature. It's a cool mug. It is. And Glenn Beckert was my grandma's favorite player, so there's a reason she kept that all those years. There was they liked to give away baseballs in the old days, like when my dad was a kid. Like they were always giving away baseballs. So
Oh yeah, I remember those days.
yeah. They don't do that much anymore, but they used to do that a lot. I mean, giveaways at these ball games have been a thing for quite some time.
I mean, to be honest with you, is if I'm choosing like what dates I want to go, I totally look at the giveaway schedule.
Of course.
I mean, because if I have a choice between 2 days and one has a giveaway and one doesn't, of course I'm going to the game with the giveaway.
Could you imagine if there's a Cub game this upcoming year and it's giving away big Kool-Aid wooden spoon stirrers? You'll be first in line. What you're going to do is you're going to buy like 50 tickets, and then you're going to go in, you're going to get one, and then you're going to sneak your way out. Then you're going to put on like a false mustache and turn your hat backwards and be like, top of the morning to you. And then you get another one. Then you're going to go back out and you're going to change shirts, and then you're going to come back in and just keep collecting all the wooden spoons.
That would be amazing. Trying to see what's the Blackhawks giveaway schedule this year.
I didn't get anything on opening night. You know what I like from multiple teams that I've gotten? If I went early in the season, I liked when they'd give away like the magnet schedules that you could put on your refrigerator, so you just have the schedule on you.
It's funny because like if I think about it, I'm like, that's the stupidest thing ever. But when I get it, I'm like, this is actually useful. I will use this.
Yeah, exactly. Or sometimes they give away like the pocket schedules where, they're just like the little flip thing, and you could use those too.
Let's see. The Blackhawks are done with giveaways for the remainder of this calendar year. The next one is January 13th. It It says giveaway TBD, but it is Andrew Shaw Legacy Night. So I'm assuming it's an Andrew Shaw bobblehead, which I've already got 2 of those, I believe. January 31st is Brent Seabrook Legacy Night giveaway TBD. I already have a Brent Seabrook one. March 3rd is Nicholas Jalmerson Legacy Night giveaway
They're going to give away
TBD.
hammers.
That would be awesome, but they'll probably give away a Nick Jalmerson bobblehead, which I don't think I have a Jalmerson one.
No, that's a worthy collector. Yeah.
And then March 8th is St. Patrick's Day green hat.
They always do St. Patrick's Day giveaways, I feel like, for the Hawks. Because, you go to those games and you see an awful lot of the green Blackhawks sweaters for the St. Patrick's Day edition. Those are pretty popular.
Yeah, the NHL has been pretty cheap with their giveaways this year.
Tisk.
A lot of teams aren't doing any giveaways.
I mean, I know that during pandemic times they weren't doing it, but that was understandable.
Because there's no fans in the stadium.
Right.
But there's fans in the stadium now. So give me giveaways.
I just want my free stuff.
I paid for that game. I want free stuff.
I want my free stuff, even though I paid $70 for those tickets.
Yeah. Here we go. Bulls promotional schedule. Oh, wait, that's the wrong Bulls. That's the Iowa Bulls. I want the Chicago Bulls. What the hell
What
are
about
the
the Windy City Bulls?
The Windy City Bulls? They announced their giveaway schedule. I'm not going to lie. I like the Windy City Bulls logo better than the Chicago Bulls logo. There, I said it.
Oh, okay. That's blasphemy. You need to go and you need to repent and you need to bathe yourself in holy water and you need to confess your sins. Listen. The Windy City Bulls logo is cool. I think it is cool. Don't get me wrong. But sir, you just crossed the meatball line.
December 11th is the holiday party and scarf giveaway.
The holiday party and scarf. So is it just you get a scarf or is there something more to that?
I don't know. It doesn't have a picture, but it says holiday party. And I think there's 2 different things. Maybe it's like a holiday party and it's a scarf giveaway. Scarves are good ones. I've gotten some good scarves giveaway. I got a Blackhawks winter hat that has like the strings that come down. So it's got the ear flaps that come down over your ears.
Mm-hmm.
And then it's got, I got that. We actually have 2 because my wife went with me. January 8th is the Roadrunner bobblehead giveaway. Just February 12th is Hispanic Heritage Night with Lucha Libre Gus T bobblehead giveaway. The 26th of February is Jersey Drawstring giveaway. That's a good one. And March 27th is Dog Day.
Dog.
Why don't the Chicago Bulls have? Let's see. It's got their theme nights. Oh, here we go. Already passed those ones. Yeah, tonight is the Joakim Noah bobblehead. December 6th is the BMO hat series. Get a hat. December 22nd is the Horizon Therapeutics winter hat giveaway. December 29th is a $25 gift card, Zenny gift card. I don't know what that is. January 7th is a hat, BMO hat series. January 30th is part of the hat series. February 14th is Advocate Healthcare mini basketball giveaway. February 24th is part of the hat giveaway. Same thing with March 4th. March 12th is a Constellation Energy blanket. March 21st is a hat. April 2nd is Jewel Osco Benny the Bull bobblehead giveaway. And April 8th is the Corona bucket hat giveaway.
Ooh, that sounds fun.
I could go with a Corona bucket hat.
You need to start a bucket hat chant.
Let's see, are the Bears giving away anything? Probably not. I don't think.
Who cares at this point?
They just give you indigestion. It's Pepto-Bismol indigestion game. When you've got heartburn, upset stomach, diarrhea.
The promo is.
They should update the song. It's like Bears game diarrhea.
And they like half-ass Photoshop like over like the people in the commercial. Like they have like Nagy and Pace and George McCaskey.
One's holding his like stomach with an upset stomach, and one's holding his butt like it's diarrhea.
Oh, that would be classic.
Well, is there anything else you wanted to talk about?
No, I've said my piece. It's getting late in the Bulls game, and it's a 4-point game, and this is going to come down to the wire. So let's just hope they get a win.
Yeah, so I will flip that game on and catch the end. But that's going to do it for this episode of Bill Swerski Sports Talk Chicago. I want to thank everybody so much for listening. Please hit subscribe however you listen to podcasts, whether it's iTunes, Stitcher, YouTube, TuneIn, Google Play, Spotify, etc. Follow us on social media at Swerski Sports, facebook.com/Swerski Sports, SwerskiSports.com. You can follow Alex at AlexanderJPatCreative.com. And make sure you share this podcast with your friends. That's how we grow the show. And again, thank you guys so much for listening. And until next time, bear down.
Cubs win! What a lucky break! The good Lord wants the Cubs to win!
We thank Ditka and God for all they have provided.
Cubs win! Cubs win! Cubs win!
Oh, I don't want her. You can have her. She's a Packer fan.
She can't fit in my van.
And she looks like
Remember, New Yorkers, smoking crack is not legal on planes. Bears 31 to -7.
the Bears. Oh, when the Bears go bearing down.